I'm Seth Aruda with Alta Vista Insurance. This is the No Worries podcast. We talk about anything and everything when it comes to insurance so you can protect your lifestyle, build wealth, and live your best life. Today, I've got a really exciting guest with me, Ryan DeHart of Pacific Coast Appliance. We're going to talk a little bit about his business. Hopefully, he'll be able to give us some tips about some things that property owners and real estate agents can look at when owning properties and when things break and they need a service provider to help them solve those problems. So, Ryan, thanks for coming over. Appreciate you coming to the office to talk and learn a little bit about what you do, and hopefully you can kind of tell our audience kind of some tips and maybe some other things to look for when dealing with those hard appliance issues. So just to kind of jump in, before we get started on, just talking about general stuff about, home appliance, kind of want to know how you started in business. How'd you kind of start out and how long you guys been here and what do you guys focus on, like, specifically?
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate that. I started out in the home appliance business just doing customer service for parts, and then ended up transferring to the tech role where I learned how to fix appliances. I've been doing it since 2010, so coming up on 12 years now. My business partner, Sal, he's been in the industry since he was 17, so he's been doing it for almost about 26 years now. He started out in Sears. And all in all, I transferred down from the Bay Area. The company I worked for, which was doing strictly Sub-Zero Wolf contracting, headquarters was in Claremont Mesa. And that's where I met Sal. And after a few years, he approached me and said, "Do you want to start something on our own?" And here we are.
Awesome. So you guys are small business owners here in San Diego now. So you started your own business. That's really cool. As a small business owner, how long have you guys been working here in San Diego specifically?
In San Diego, we started the company in 2019 of September, didn't fully go out on our own until July of 2020. So coming up on 3 years of being in business, but really about 2 years of fully being out on our own and doing our own thing.
That was an interesting time to kind of start a business. A lot of people at that time weren't really starting businesses in 2020, but you guys managed to actually fill a pretty nice niche with the home appliance repair. A lot of people were home during those times.
Yes.
Things were breaking, people needed service providers to come out and, look at things and kind of help them with, some of those issues, especially people that were mobile that could actually come to them. So
Right.
It's actually an interesting, time to start a business, but also it looks like it worked out too.
Yes, yeah, no, it was very scary at first. Once March hit and everything that happened, we looked at each other and we were like, maybe we timed this wrong. And then I think once everybody kind of started to realize, like, okay, we're in it for the long haul. This is going to be, something that we're going to deal with for a while. With the way the grocery stores were with everybody stocking up, definitely got to have a fridge working. And if you're living pretty much living and working out of your house, helps when everything works. So it actually made it really easy to transition because, like you said, everybody was home. So scheduling was easier. Nobody canceled. Everybody was available. I mean, it didn't matter if it was last minute, whatever. Everybody was home and available. And it actually, COVID allowed us to propel and actually gave us the opportunity to leave our 9-to-5s and really pushed Pacific Coast Appliance into being a full-time gig.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's, I feel like sometimes, home appliance repair is kind of like one of those things when you're like a doctor and you're in a grocery store and people ask you like, "Oh, you're a doctor. Hey, I got this pain in my neck, for the last 6 months. Like, what is it?" It's like the same thing. They know you're in home appliance repair. You're like, "Oh, you do home appliance repair? My refrigerator's been making this weird noise for like the last 8 months." And it's like, "Do you know what that is?" And you're like, "I'd have to come and take a look at it." It's like, so walk me through kind of what some of the things are that you guys really specialize in or what you focus on to kind of do specific home appliance repair for people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we pretty much specifically do, residential home appliances. So meaning, refrigerators, laundry, dishwasher, oven, stovetops, and microwaves are what we really push towards and specialize in is sealed system repairs, pretty much meaning anything that carries refrigerant. So we do a lot of that. So we're EPA certified for that, as well as we specialize in brazing and soldering and things of that nature. But another niche that we also picked up along the way was doing a lot of the marina repairs. A lot of guys don't like to do it because it's difficult. A lot of times on the boats, it's very custom. So, you take something that, would be normal in somebody's house, and a lot of times they'll modify it to fit on that boat. And a lot of guys don't want to touch it because it is stressful and it's hard. But no, we were able to kind of find a niche in that, and that helped us as well. But, mainly any residential home appliance repair, we pretty much take care of. We were able to pick up contracts with LG, Electrolux, and Frigidaire. So we are authorized in those brands and can do all warranty work for them. And then anything that's out of warranty, we take care of as well.
Yeah, that's a great niche, the marine industry. I used to work on yachts, so I remember having to have all the service guys come out and work on the boats, and you got to be in real tight spaces. Everything's usually custom depending on, the boat it is, or, putting, something in a specific area where they, the owner or the engineer wants it or the captain wants something. And it's like, you're always doing something like custom work on something like that. So that's a nice niche. But on the other side, you also do the residential repair for people that own property, whether it's, just like a residential home or like their, condo or something. We work with a lot of, real estate agents and, property managers and people that own homes or rental properties. So that's, always having a good resource like somebody that can come in and do home appliance repair that's, easily accessible, that gives good service, that's also, knowledgeable in specific, areas that specialize is really important, because those are a lot of the things that people don't want to touch are the things that you mentioned, like those type of systems in their home. They want to leave those up to the experts, which is good, because when the refrigerator breaks, it's not like most people are like, let me get the manual out, I'm going to fix this like real quick, Yeah. Sometimes, the toilet like leaks or something, you can get your wrench out, you can fix that pretty easily. But the minute, your dishwasher starts making weird noises, it's like, I think it's time to call the, the home appliance repair people to come out and take a look at it. That's great. Walk me through some of the things that you see in your business that, homeowners or people that own a lot of properties usually run into that kind of get overlooked. Like if you're buying a new home, let's say, or you're buying an investment property, what are some of the most common things that you guys get called out for, usually in like the first 3 months or so? Because I'm sure you get it all the time. Hey, Ryan, I bought this house a month ago. I just moved in. I'm having this issue with X, Y, or Z. It's making a weird noise or it's not working. So kind of give me an idea, or give our audience a little bit of an idea of kind of what they see, or what you see actually, especially when people are like maybe buying a property or own something and, let's say they just bought it and like in the first 3 months things are happening.
Yeah. So a lot of what we'll see on new homeowners is, when the inspection goes through, they're usually just checking if everything works. What we see the most of is probably dryers that need to be cleaned out. So a lot of dryer fires. And it doesn't sound as bad as you say it. So it's not like, the whole house is on fire, or even the dryer, you walk in, it's in flames, but it's more of the lint kind of builds up on the inside of the dryer, and it almost creates like a kindle, if you will. So a lot of times, people don't even realize that they had a fire, but they'll, call and say, hey, the dryer's not heating. We'll come off, pull it apart, and you'll see lint, which usually has like that gray blue look. If you ever cleaned out your lint screen, it'll usually be charred. And then you go, okay, there was a fire under here. And that's how minimal it is as far as, damage and things of that nature. And a lot of times we don't even, ruin parts that way, or even connectors, but it's just a matter of cleaning it out and then making the customer aware of, hey, this is something that either you can do yourself if it's one of the older dryers that have the toe kicks that make it accessible. A lot of the newer stuff is all one piece, so it's a lot harder for homeowners to take it apart. And I think it's all for aesthetics, so it looks nice. So that's where we come in, where we can take it apart. And then also too is cleaning out the ducts. We do that somewhat depending on how it's ducted. If it makes it crazy up to the ceiling and 4 turns and then ends up out at a wall behind you, typically we'll, push that off to a vent cleaning company. But for things that are straight shots or anything like that, we can usually take care of. And then other than that, the other crazy things we'll run into is if the previous homeowner was a DIYer and did a lot of, custom plumbing, things like that. And then we'll run into maybe some issues here and there that, the inspector's not looking for. But I'd probably say laundry is probably the two biggest things. And it's going to be the washer, cleaning out the drain pump, and then cleaning out the dryer vent duct and the dryer fires, which, like I said, aren't as bad as it sounds. We're just talking a little fire that puts itself out. And most of the times there's a, what we call a TCO or thermal cutout that will sense the temperature within the dryer. And if it gets too hot, it just completely cuts the heating element out. You can still power it on and have the drum turn. No heating though. And that's just for safety purposes. And like I said, I rarely walk into one where it's, house is burnt down and it was the dryer. It's usually just a little kindling underneath. And it's more of it's a safety hazard, but more of just, hey, let's get this taken care of. It will, one, obviously no fire in the dryer, and then two, efficiency.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to fire, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that people are concerned with, but usually they're thinking about fire outside, but fires inside the house happen all the time. My father-in-law is a firefighter, ex-firefighter, retired now, but he was always, adamant about making sure your dryer was cleaned out because it could always, usually start a fire. He's always, really concerned. Make sure you clean the dryer out all the time, every day. So, I'm surprised that was a pretty most common thing that you guys find when you're coming into a new home. What about, issues with, people's refrigerators and leaking? I know a lot of people always usually complain that, their ice maker or their their water filtration system running to the refrigerator usually leaks. Do you guys run into a lot of those problems in homes?
We run into it here and there, and I think especially in San Diego with hard water, it will build up a little bit quicker than maybe some other areas that have, better water. And I understand a lot of customers have softeners, and softeners will help out. But I think all in all, anybody that lives in San Diego has kind of understood that we just have hard water, and that's just what you deal with. Yeah. So we run into it here and there. I'd say most of our water issues are going to be if you have any plumbing work done, whether it's in your house or maybe just in the neighborhood. If the water is going to be shut off from a certain time or a certain date, what I try to let customers know is to turn the ice maker off. Because what will happen if you get a perfect storm is the ice maker will cycle, call for water, but if the plumbing is shut off, you'll have a residual drip. And that'll start to cause like an ice buildup in the fill tube, which then can create pressure and push the water line off, and then you have water spilling behind the fridge. The other one would be what I recommend for everybody to do as well when it comes to maintenance is if you have, your normal standard fridge that just rolls right out, right down behind it in the back is your what we call the compressor or condenser area. Usually has like a little screen that you want to vacuum off that will build up lint. What'll happen is a lot of the water lines are plastic. So when you have a lot of heat back there, especially because the compressor is a motor that gets hot, that plastic gets brittle. And once it gets brittle, it starts to spring these leaks. And, as crazy as it sounds, I think sometimes the bigger leaks are better because you see it right away. And most of the times, if you're home, boom, right there, big leak. Okay, cool. We got a problem. Call a plumber, appliance person, whatever, in that type of scenario. But when you have a little, pin leak that's just hissing out, by the time you usually notice it, cabinets are warped, or if you have hardwood floors, those are ruined, or usually those small ones you don't notice until it's too late. So that's another thing that we tell everybody as far as maintenance goes is, pull your fridge out, make sure you vacuum that condenser area. And that is where, depending on the fridge you have, I would refer people to the manual because it'll tell you where that's located at. Or we could always, what I tell everybody is if you want, to do the maintenance on your own, but you're not sure how, have us come out, hang out, watch us, and we can show you how to do it. And then that way, hopefully save you some money in the future on having to call us out for maintenance and try to handle that on their own and call us for the big stuff.
That's great. No, so even like the maintenance stuff like that prevents people from having an even bigger issue at the house, like warped flooring or cabinets that are, damaged. So, just educating people about doing these small little things can even help prevent them from having a larger, issue later on or even down the road if it gets worse. I know sometimes people don't want to really, do certain things because, obviously it doesn't really affect them, at the time, because, they look at it as, oh, it's a little bit of dust, what's a little bit of this, I'll get to it later. But doing routine maintenance like that obviously improves the chance that they're not going to have a larger issue in the future. And that's just good, education that you guys bring to your consumers and clients that you guys meet with, to kind of just let them know, like, hey, these are things that you can do that are really simple, really easy. These little routine things just periodically are going to help you prevent you from getting larger issues in the future. So
Right.
And you guys do a lot of that kind of like because I'm sure a lot of people don't even know about that. I'm sure most people, when they buy a home or they own a home, it's like they get all new stuff, or sometimes the appliances come with the home. Right. And they really don't know how much use they've had, what age they are, or, if they've had any prior issues. So they're just kind of, living in the home and using all of the appliances. And then when something happens, then they call you guys out to come and look at it. But it's good that you guys are kind of doing some of that, education, and kind of giving people some of that information up front, like while you're there, to kind of just let them know, hey, these are some things that you really should be doing to avoid us from coming out all the time to, fix something. And it can kind of also help prevent something in the future. What are some big things that you guys work on or repair or replace, as far as like, big items or big projects that maybe take a little bit longer, a little bit more complicated for people to really kind of do?
I'd say one of our biggest projects that we do, and it doesn't come up too often, but it does come up enough that, it takes about half of a day for us, and that's rebuilding wine coolers. It's a real common one. They're under counter wine coolers. And, with refrigerant, most of the times it's going to be copper and aluminum is what they use. Sometimes some steel lines, but a lot of the under counter wine cooler units will use copper lines and things of that nature. So, corrosion happens at a much higher temperature. So, when you're talking about an evaporator that gets cold, if it's for a refrigerator or, say, a wine cooler, we keep those temperatures higher, so you're going to have corrosion. And when corrosion happens on copper, it's going to spring a leak eventually. With those being said, those are something that we have to split the unit apart, and we have to cut out a bunch of copper and then put in new motors and evaporators and weld all those in. Generally takes about 4 to 5 hours, and I'd say that's probably our biggest project. And then other than that, we get a lot of conversions on new gas ranges that are being sold depending on where you live. If you're, in the hills of Vista or Ramona, Fallbrook, Bonsall, anything like that, where you may be, having to go from natural gas to liquid propane. Sometimes the dealers won't have, especially now with availability, they may tell you all we have is natural gas. Go ahead and buy it, and then it can be converted. And then that's more tedious than anything. It just takes time, though, because you have to go through each orifice, make sure you're converting it from natural to propane, and then obviously checking to make sure we don't have gas leaks at the end.
Right.
Which if you do, then you're going back through and all that good stuff. But try to do it in one shot the best you can. But I'd say those are probably the biggest projects. The next one, and this will also kind of go into customer education, our biggest project that we do on a normal basis is washer tub rebuilds. And why that comes up a lot, sometimes it's just age. And, when it comes to like 10 to 15 years, sometimes that'll just happen over time. Sometimes, though, when they come up earlier than they should, a lot of times it's oversudsing. So what I try to tell a lot of customers with, especially all the new product, everything's high efficiency nowadays. So, we went from using 30 to 40 gallons of water, and now we have it down to about anywhere from 4 to 10 gallons, which is almost a tenth of what we used to use. Anybody that has kids or, takes bubble baths, you pull the cork, hardest thing to drain, soap. It's what gets left over. So in a washer, a lot of the times, that soap, when you oversuds it, it doesn't drain out, and it starts to seep into the bearings and will start to ruin. And that's when we get the phone call, or if anybody's ever ran their washer on a spin cycle and goes, man, it sounds like an airplane or a jet's taking off. That's an indication that the metal's starting to rub on each other. So we'll come across that a lot. And I try to preach to everybody, don't go buy the min-max lines, 2 tablespoons max. You probably won't need more than that. And, even like the pods, if you use pods, if you look on the back of theirs, they'll say full load, throw 3 pods in there. And I'm like, whoa, no, way too much soap. So, that's probably another big one that we do. It requires 2 of us to rebuild a whole tub, and pretty much you strip a washer down to the base, and you're just literally it's down to a base and that's it. And you're taking the tub and you're just pretty much rebuilding a tub and putting a new tub with new bearings in there. And most of the times, oversizing is what causes that.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because I noticed a lot of times when I open up my washer, it's like there's not a lot of water in there now. I mean, a lot of these high efficiency ones, they don't put a lot of water in them, but that's probably one of the biggest things people do is over soap their clothes, and that can actually eat up those bearings in that tub. That's an interesting one. What about for people that own, let's say, if they own rental properties or they have, like, let's say an apartment building that they own, what are some common things that they should be kind of looking for, when having somebody like an appliance repair person that they can kind of, use or rely on to kind of help them with their rental properties, or if they have like an apartment building with a lot of units in it, what are some things that you kind of tell those type of property owners or investors of the importance of having somebody like, Pacific Coast Appliance? Because a lot of these things it's so interesting to me that, this is something that is so common, but these are issues that everybody's going to have. If you own a property or you live in a home, something's going to break and you're going to need somebody to come and fix it. And having somebody like locally that they can work with, that's easy to get a hold of, that has a well-oiled system and is also, knowledgeable and honest and, willing to kind of educate people. What do you tell, people that have a lot of properties, what they should be looking for when trying to choose a service appliance provider?
Honestly, transparency and communication. As crazy as it sounds, I think the hardest part of our job is always going to be diagnostics. Figuring out what's wrong is the toughest part. But once you know what's wrong, then it's just replacing it. It's either easy or hard, but it is what it is. It's kind of straightforward. And, thankfully to the internet and YouTube, you can find a lot of that information out, but it's just knowing what's wrong with it and what needs to be replaced. So when I, tell these property managers, or if, you do the Airbnb rentals, vacation rentals, apartment buildings, or just even simple landlords that maybe have a couple properties that rent out, transparency and communication. You want good customer service. It's one of the biggest reasons why we started our own, so we can control quality. And transparency. You want to know that whatever we're saying that we fix is what we did fix, and that we're actually putting those parts in. So it's standing by your work and just being fully transparent with the homeowner. And just letting them know, hey, this is what it is, or, hey, this is what you can do to prevent this. Heck, I've been on a dishwasher where, we're just trying to do a simple, fix a clogged air gap. And it's nothing major. You go underneath and you go, hey, you got a drip here. You might want to take care of that. And it's not even in my, ballpark of what I do, or spec of what I do, or scope, I should say. But it's like, hey, you should probably call a plumber. I just noticed, that line is leaking, or that line's a little corroded. I did tighten it, the drip stopped, but you may want to have someone out here. And it's just things like that. If you can try to save people money in the long run on those small things, rather than just, oh, that's not my territory, I'm just going to fix the dishwasher. If it leaks and ruins their cabinets, it is what it is. I think that goes a long way as far as, just showing people that you're an honest, transparent company that likes to, communicate and, do right by your customers the best you can. And I think it all comes back as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think anybody that owns a property, but even especially like investors or property owners, that can be a large cost, because if you've got a lot of units or a lot of properties, there's a lot of appliances in them, and that out-of-pocket expense for people when things are breaking and need repair. When you're looking at what you're budgeting for your expenses on your investment properties, it can be a large expense to kind of keep up with when you're trying to maintain your investment properties. So I think it's important to have somebody that is knowledgeable, but also has a really good depth of knowledge when it comes to understanding what the problems are, how they can solve them quickly for you, having that transparency to kind of just educate educate you on the things that you can do to avoid larger disasters in the future, but also having somebody that's, a resource that you can rely on when things do break and you really need to have somebody come in and service them. And do you offer any type of like specific like service contracts for people that have like large like portfolios, or if they have like a 5 or 6 rental properties and it's like we'll take care of all of them for you, like something like that?
We do. With property management companies, we do have like these account terms and things of that nature that we work with. And so, yeah, we're always willing to set that up. And it's we don't, if we're at a property that, let's just say, has 5 units and we're going to do all 5 that day, there's no need to have a trip charge on each one because we're already there. So it's just then working into a reasonable deal that covers everybody and make sure, obviously the name of the game is making money, but at the same time, we do want to sleep at night and not have to look over our shoulders and be pretty honest about it. So, and that once again goes into, not leading somebody down to spending thousands of dollars on something that's not worth spending thousands of dollars on fixing. Sometimes it's not fun to hear, hey, you should get a new one, but sometimes it's better to hear time to walk away and get a new one. Or sometimes it's good to hear that, hey, you don't have to get a new one. We can fix this, and it's that transparency. And so, no, absolutely. We do offer though, terms and contracts depending on, the property manager, the size, things of that nature. We do try to build a little bit of a relationship first, with us being a small business. It's not like, I have anybody running credit checks or anything like that. We a little old school. We do it off the whole, kind of faith rule, but, we do like to build a relationship with those.
No, that's great. You guys are a local business here in San Diego, and obviously, you want to grow and also help people, but it's good to be, also caring and, try to solve people's problems efficiently and effectively and just be, upfront and honest with people. I wanted to ask you something real quick before we end about, we talked about parts and, you're always talking about for appliances, you got to order stuff and, be there with the right part and know this needs this or that. How is the supply chain issues kind of affecting what you guys do, and also the wait times? Like if somebody's refrigerator needs something and like the parts taking, a couple of days or, weeks to come in, and, their ice cream and their, frozen TV dinners are, melting. What are you guys looking at as far as like issues with the supply chain on parts and things? Because everything I'm sure you guys, kind of work with, the majority of the parts are probably not made in the United States, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's been kind of tough. It's starting to get a little bit better as far as that goes, but it is tough. I mean, if you go to a refrigerator that's not cooling, the expectation is hopefully to fix it that day, if not to be back within 2 to 3 days. The good thing is a lot of distributors we work with, their shipping is usually 1 or 2 day shipping. So it's really great. And that helps out a lot, especially if we can't get it local here in San Diego. But there are some times where, hey, this refrigerator isn't cooling. That part is back ordered. That's really essential to fixing it for, let's say, anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days. That's tough to live without a refrigerator for that long. What I call it is you're pretty much camping in your home at that point because you're kind of living out of a cooler. So, at that point, that's when we make the recommendation, hey, if you are going to go forward with the repair and not replace this unit, recommend maybe getting a mini fridge. Garage refrigerators aren't a bad idea to have, and when I tell people to go garage refrigerators, keep it simple, top mount freezers with the fridge on the bottom. Very simple product. Usually doesn't break the bank too much, anywhere between $500-$700, I think, for that, which isn't chump change. But what I tell people too on the plus side of that is once we get your refrigerator in the kitchen working, anything ever goes wrong, now you got a backup fridge, and now you don't have to worry about it as much.
You got another fridge now. You can fill it with more stuff.
Beer fridge, right? And then on the other side of that, which I didn't think of until it really started to come up, is we would go to units that were 11, 12 years old that a customer may have purchased for $1,800, $2,300, and the repair is going to be $1,100. And so at that point, that's when I say, hey, you probably should go get a new one. But what if you can't buy a new one because you can't find a new one? So we had that come up, and now it's fingers crossed, we're fixing this old appliance where you're like, I don't, we'll see what happens. So there's been, it's been a back and forth, there's been we can't get parts, but then there's also, hey, I would replace this because this is so old, but I can't.
Well, I would think that a lot of people are probably doing more repair on the things that they have rather than going out and buying something new, because you can't get anything new right now. It's been hard to find something, or if you do, it's taken months for you to even get the actual new product. So people are probably stuck with the fact that it's like, hey, we've got this old appliance, let's just fix it for $500, $800, and we'll have it done in a couple of days, and we're not waiting 3 months to get a new one because they don't have the one that we want, or the one that is actually going to fit in our actual home.
Yeah, the fitting part is probably the one we run into the most. And it's, either the one they can get is too big or too small. And, same thing, just, I hate to keep harping on it, but it's where it comes back to service and transparency. I'll tell customers, like, I understand that maybe you can't find a new one, but, this unit was only supposed to go 10, 15, and it's 17 years old. And I'll say, at that point, good money after bad is still good money after bad, and that's when I still will throw out, why don't you get, a smaller fridge and either, put it in the hole, it may not look nice, and then put the fridge you want on order and right back to the top mount freezer, $500-700. Because at the end of the day, if my repair's $1,000, but you can get a brand new fridge that can easily go in your garage for $700, in my opinion, I think it's well worth it. But our job isn't to make those decisions for anyone. Really, our job is to provide the most information that we can, so that the customer then can at least feel like whatever decision they made was the best educated decision that they can. And there's always reasons on why people do or don't. And I get it, and we're there to go down. What I tell my customers is, any rabbit hole you want to go down, I'll go down with you. I just want to make sure that they fully understand the pros and cons of it, and then we try to do our best to do right by it. And yeah, no, there was a lot of units we repaired that we probably wouldn't have, and honestly, I don't think the customer would have. But like you said, couldn't find something, and at that point, you just really cross your fingers on it, and you hope that that the parts that are coming out are good, and that the parts that we put in will take care of the problem, not just short term, but long term. Anytime I charge large dollar amounts, I want that repair to last, and small dollar amounts as well. I mean, we want the repairs to last, period. But I want to make sure that when the customer's put in a tough position or a predicament, that we can at least all walk away going, man, we all did our best, and I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a nice thing about, a business like yours, entrepreneurs and people that are, really passionate about what they do. They don't really feel like they're, running a business and, selling. They want to, provide really good education to people and value so they can make the best decision possible about whatever they're going to, need to do in the future, whether it's repair or replace their appliance, buy something new, change something out. And I think that's just one of the ways that people look at their business differently than others do is, how can I provide value? How can I solve somebody's problem really easily and, hassle-free so they can go live their life and not have to worry about these things. They've got resources available to them, whether they're, a real estate agent or, a property manager or just a homeowner, and they just want to solve that problem quickly and move on to, their life and, live their best life. I think that's really, really important when you have, a service business, like yours. You want to be, transparent. You want to add value. You want to solve people's problems, but you also want to be upfront, honest, and, give people all the education that you can so they can just make the best decisions. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. That's what I always try to do with my clients. I know other entrepreneurs that are in business that do the same thing, and that's usually the same common theme I hear from everybody is they want to give the best education to their clients possible so they can make the best decisions. How do people get a hold of you? What's the best way to call you, email you? Got a website, reach out to you. I'm sure you get calls on your phone all the time. Best way to kind of contact you guys to have you come out and take a look at something for a client, or if a real estate agent that we work with is looking to add a home appliance service provider to their team, what's the best way to reach you?
So we got 3 different ways. First way would be calling the office. Our office admin, her name is Emily. always get everybody taken care of and scheduled. She knows my schedule better than I do half the time, so it's usually best to go to her on
Yeah, I think
that.
she reached out to me.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
"Schedule
Yeah,
this."
exactly. You're right. You're
I was
right.
like, who is this?
Yeah. As soon as you sent me a message, I was like, okay, I don't know my schedule as good as she does, so I'm going to let her handle it. And I don't want to step on her toes if she had things planned for me, so I let her take care of it. But calling her would be an easy way, and that number would be 619-333-0946. And then from there, you could always send an email, which she'll respond to as well. And that would be info, at pcarepair.com. So Paul Charlie Alpha Repair.com. And then the next one is we actually do have a link on our website that lets you submit a request. I don't believe it lets you select dates or times, but it pretty much almost as if you were to send an email, kind of auto-generates that with your information. And the website would be pcarepair.com.
Awesome. I'll put all this too in the description for the video, and I'll put it into our tag at the end. So if anybody wants to get a hold of Ryan and his team to come out and look at any type of appliance issues that they're having, he's a great resource, wealth of knowledge, a real nice guy, and he'll take care of you. So again, this is Seth Aruda with the No Worries podcast. See you guys next time.
My folk prognosis make my brains come